happened, there was no kind of time to think about it. I remember it. I was sat watching I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here because it was in November.
You see the things coming a lot
Yes.
earlier. You know, at least we're in control of our own destiny.
Well, hello there and welcome to the About Small Business podcast. This episode is a first for a number of reasons. I'm actually interviewing Aidan and Richard Weatherburn from Grandpa's Chippy based in Lanchester. This is actually my favourite chip shop. I'm really excited to be doing this, and this is in fact the first episode where I've actually interviewed two people, two brothers, locally known as the Hotties from the chip shop.
I don't know about that.
So, gents, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I think first of all, you both got some quite varied backgrounds. Aidan, since you're sat there and your letter starts with the letter A, if you could kind of tell us what you were doing kind of in the run-up to the opening of the Chippy.
So I guess from leaving school, I worked in sales for 6-7 years.
Right.
As an estate agent originally.
Oh, okay.
Then went into the motor trade, worked in car sales for about 4 years. And then when I was 22, joined Northumbria Police.
And then you were there until...
Yeah, did that for 4 years.
Right.
And then left to set this up with Rich.
Which was your favourite out of those?
I've never asked you that one before.
Most enjoyable, probably car sales.
Right. Are you a car person?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I do like cars. I mean, I worked for Honda. I can't say I'm a Honda man. Not an exciting brand as such.
No
What was the jazz?
Yeah. But no, I enjoyed that job. It was good crack. It was good money at the time.
Fantastic.
But I'd always wanted to join the police, so I'm pleased I did that.
Yeah. And Rich, I believe you've got a finance background?
I did, yeah. So I guess straight from school, I had a few like bits and pieces of jobs, but ended up working in banking until 2008. I was a mortgage advisor. Then obviously 2008 happened, which completely changed the world of banking. So I was made redundant from that. And much like Aidan, I'd always had a vision of doing something in the services. So I joined the RAF and did 5 years in the RAF. Met my missus. She didn't fancy being a military wife.
Right.
So came out in financial services where I ended back up. Ended up training through St James's Plaice Wealth Management and then set up my own independent financial advice firm. Ran that for about 5 years and then sold that. And I was kind of floating around wondering what to do next. My wife, Emma, she got sick of me complaining about always wanting to do something with food, I think, and kind of called me out on it and said, we're going to buy a food truck.
Right.
So we did. We did that in 2023. We bought an old horse box and did it up as a pizza truck and
Right, okay.
ran around doing that whilst I was kind of transitioning my business sale. And then the Chippy came up. Around the time I was thinking, right, I'm going to, once this transition period with the business sale is done, I'm not sure where I want to go, what I want to do. I've got some time to think. The Chippy came up and it felt like a bit serendipitous because we just agreed to buy a house in the village as well.
Fantastic. So everything works out well. So the Chippy then, that's not your first foray into working for yourself then?
No. Done a few things.
Is it something that you could, do you think you could go back to a job?
No.
No.
I think I trialled that, to be honest, after I'd sold the business because I went to work for the business that I'd sold my company to. And they gave me a great job, lots of flexibility, but I didn't like answering to people, to be honest. I think coming out of the military where you've got to answer to people and, discipline is very formal. I wanted to go at the exact opposite of that.
If you're enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to let you know exactly when another podcast's going to drop. That's an interesting point you've just made, though. So from a military perspective, which is very, as you said, very regimented, as I suspect the police is as well, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
And so you both come from that background where you kind of have to be doing as you're told, to the flexibility. So, I mean, you certainly seem to have enjoyed the police, and I'm guessing you enjoyed your time in the RAF.
Very much so.
But you couldn't go back.
No.
I think once you're running your own days, it's very difficult, and you realise, for me, how much inefficiency there are. The bigger the organisation, the more inefficiencies I've found that to be, and that's frustrating.
I think we're quite fortunate as well that we're both running the business, so it gives you even more flexibility. I think if it was one of us running that shop on our own, it's open 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It would get a bit tiresome, but if he wants to go on holiday, I
Yeah.
can run it, and vice versa.
Because I mean, obviously, you're brothers. You clearly, from what I've seen, you're clearly quite close, and
Most of the time.
so we don't see the arguments that go behind the scenes, right? I've got 2 daughters. I know what they're like as well, so I can imagine. Did you always know that you'd work well together?
This came about really quite suddenly, if we're honest.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember exactly when it happened.
Yeah,
So
the chippy came up, and I remember we were about to move house. Our house was sold. We were moving to Lanchester just as the chippy came up, and Emma, my wife upstairs, was bathing the bin, and she texted me a screenshot of the advert from the landlords who just bought the whole building, saying,
Yeah.
would anyone like to rent the chip shop? And I was dead excited, but because she was putting the bed to bed by this point, I didn't want to go upstairs and talk to her about it because she was trying to get the bed to sleep. So I was like, I really want to speak to someone about it. So I rang him. And I said, I'm going to go and see it tomorrow. Do you want to come? And he was like, well, do you want me to come in? And I'm kind of bored with the police, I guess. And it went from there. So it was very sudden. It was a very snap decision, but sometimes those are the best ones.
It's interesting. It's like whenever I've first spoken to entrepreneurs, there is a perception that it's a really brave thing to do, which I think it is. I don't think you can take that away. But from what you're describing, you seem to almost fall into the other camp of it's just like a kind of natural process.
just happened. There was no kind of time to think about it. I remember it. I was sat watching I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out of Here because it was in November. I was getting ready to leave the police. I'd actually been offered me job back in
Right.
the motor trade. So I was like busy thinking, am I going to go and do this? And he rang us, and as he said, he was like, I'm going to go and see this chippy tomorrow. And I want to say that was a Tuesday night, and we were flying to Germany on the Friday together with both of our partners and me nana for a little holiday. And he said, do you want to come with us and see it? And I was like, well, is it just for my opinion, or do you want us to go in on it with you? And then we spent that holiday doing all the branding afterwards, seeing it and creating logos.
Was that a good holiday?
We probably both been out at tears.
Yeah, sat there on a night drinking wine with a laptop, designing logos, different types of fish on.
Here we go, another pipe dream for these boys.
But yes, and then after that, as soon as we got back, it was just like rip the whole thing out, and we didn't really have any time to think.
I was going to say, because it was quite transformational. I mean, obviously, I'm aware of what Lanchester chippy, which you know, was a much loved chippy within the village, and I think it had come through a time when there were a lot of businesses that were shutting down. A lot had been affected by COVID. A couple of the pubs in the village were having a really hard time. One closed down. Fortunately, now's reopened. And I know locally there was a lot of grassroots support when you guys took it over.
Yeah.
But as I say, it was a much loved local business.
Yeah.
And so essentially the name Grandpa's, because you decided obviously not to keep the name Lanchester Chippy, and you instead said Grandpa's Chippy. So can you tell me how that name came about?
Yeah, sure. So obviously we'd been to see it and we were talking about it. I think the name came up within a day or two. We'd come away from the viewing and said, look, we think we'd really like to do this, and start spitballing ideas as to what we would theme it around. And our granddad passed away about six years ago now. And he pretty much raised me, to be honest, because my parents were very young when I was born. And he was like a father to me, really close. And he did a lot of stuff with us. And one of those things was chippy teas all the time. He was a massive fish and chip fan. Aidan obviously had the same affection for him. And he said, well, we'd call it, it was originally going to be Eric's because that was his name. But I'd say, well, everyone's just going to think one of us is called Eric, and we're going to have to constantly correct that. Now everyone just thinks we're the grandsons of the previous owners. There's always going to be confusion. But Grandpa rather than Granddad, because Grandpa rhymes with fish bar.
Yes.
So it was just easier from, I guess, a marketing perspective, and arguing back to that traditional sense.
So, Aidan, so it sounds like Rich had I suppose, that sort of yearning to work for himself. Is that something that you'd had as well? Because it sounds like from what you've said, it sounds like something that was in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, we'd talked about for years and years and years having some kind of business together at some point. I also had a pipe dream of having a pub or a bar together.
Which is interesting. You've decided
a conversation after
not an estate agency or a car dealership.
No. I always had
hospitality.
Hospitality, yeah. I always had a dream of having a pub or a bar.
Right. Okay.
But having something together as well with being close most of our lives.
What side of the hospitality was it that you were particularly interested in? Because obviously Rich has said he's quite interested in the food side.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the pizza thing with Rich, so when I was on days off, I would go around with the Voodoo pizza truck, and we'd talked about potentially taking that full time, which I think
open a pizzeria or something.
Why not do that out of interest?
Well, the chippy came up. It's not something I've written off completely.
Right, purely opportunity.
Yeah, it was
Initially, the landlord thought we were going to turn that into a pizzeria.
yeah. But to me, there wasn't a gap in Lanchester for a pizzeria. There was a gap for a chip shop. So yeah, I wouldn't rule that out in the future. It's certainly not something I wouldn't look to go back.
Is that something you maybe consider for the village, or?
Well, there's already a pizza shop.
Pizza shop's just open.
So, not just yet.
Not just yet. All right. So watch this space. Fantastic. So in terms of the whole plan behind it, then, because one thing that is apparent is the way you guys have kind of just absolutely smashed social media. Mm-hmm. And I believe you've got help with that.
I don't think we can take any credit
I
for
can't
this,
take
can
any
we?
credit for it. So, my wife is, she's got her own business. She's a social media manager for a few different businesses.
Right. Can we give her a shout out? Shout out?
She's actually just rebranded because she wants to move into weddings as well as doing business content. But she's got a company called Mint Moments, previously Mint Zebra Media, and she looks after currently, I think, about 12 corporate clients where she just takes their social media on as her own and runs with it. And she's done the same for grandpas. So she loves, once a week she gets to come in and basically make fools out of us and get us doing all these silly things, but it seems to work.
I was going to say, I did see one the other day of you dancing.
That was a good one. Terrific.
I mean, when we first opened and Emma was coming in, I mean, I was kind of struggling to not take myself so seriously. Going from the police to all of a sudden Emma coming in and saying, right, I need you to dance for this TikTok. I feel like a complete idiot. But it works. We had people come in the other day who said they came from Jarrow to see us because they'd seen a video on Facebook.
Right.
So it brings people in that we otherwise probably wouldn't get.
Have you found that you've learned a lot from watching Emma in action then as well?
She knows her stuff, certainly. She's very creative from a branding perspective. All the branding was her. She created the logo.
Right.
And, menu boards, everything. So we can't take any credit for that. We came up with a name and just said, what would you do with this? And then the social media has been completely run by her.
Just out of interest, I'm just wondering, had you not had that very, very fortunate family connection, is that something you think you would have you would have had the foresight to outsource?
Yeah,
100%.
Before Emma did this, I was outsourcing my previous business's social media to another company in the region. It was because I was doing that she kind of saw that opportunity for herself. She's like, well, what they're doing for you, I could do. And so I was her first client in my previous business.
Right, okay.
And then we got her a few more clients that I kind of knew and looked after myself from a financial planning perspective, and it's grown from there.
Right, excellent stuff. So so possibly we might need to speak to her in a future episode if she's up for it.
I'm sure she'd love it.
Aidan, what's your partner? Is it partner, wife?
Yeah, wife in 4 weeks' time.
In 4 weeks' time?
Yeah, we're off to Greece on the 2nd of September.
Wow. Congratulations on that one. And does she work for herself or?
Yeah, so we met in the police.
Right.
So we met at training school, joined at the same time, left at about the same time, and Mackenzie's set up Bark Avenue, which is a dog walking, pet sitting business.
Okay.
So she set that up about the same time as Chippy opened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that locally based around the same area?
We live Chesley Street, so she
Right.
covers sort of Chesley Street, Sacriston, Whittinghill, but surrounding areas. So yeah, that's
Grown really
it there.
quickly, hasn't it? Grown nicely.
Very well, yeah.
So shout out to the family businesses as well there. That's brilliant. So in terms of the security side with the Air Force and the police, you've got, I think, as much as possible what you could consider steady jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this conversation. You're right, with the public sector you do. But I think there's a misconception in the private sector that working for a big company or a small business has got security rather than setting up on your own.
Yeah.
I just don't buy into that, to be honest, because businesses go bust all the time. People get made redundant all the time. At least if you're running your own business, I always think you see the things coming a lot earlier.
Yes.
Emma was made redundant from a job where she thought it was a really successful business, very secure, and then she went in one day and they said, you've got 30 days left and here's a redundancy notice.
Really, that?
So we don't come from an entrepreneurial family at all, and often this debate comes up because they all think we're a bit crazy for having these businesses, and I'm like, at least we're in
maybe they've
control.
just seen the TikTok videos though.
Yeah. At least we're in control of our own destiny. Whereas you put in your faith in other people, I think, if you work for someone.
I agree. I do agree with that. And it's...
The public sector is an exception for that because there is security in the public sector.
I was never going to get made redundant in the police. So
But there's a trade-off in the public sector in that the wages aren't that good as well.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, for me, my background as a teacher, and I felt the same. It's like you've got all sorts of pressures coming in on you. Things are being squeezed at the minute, and it's a recurring topic that I end up discussing on the podcast. Just like sort of cuts that have been made to the services, to the RAF, to the police, to education, and whilst certainly the police are there are going to be fewer redundancies, it's that pressure that is forcing people to quit.
Understaffed and underfunded. And hugely overworked. The workloads are crazy.
Yeah. And I suppose in those institutions, you've not got any control at all, as you say. Like, so if you're working for yourself, you can decide if you're getting too busy. Which I mean, you guys have been very busy with the chip shop, haven't you? Was that from day one? Because I do remember the day you opened, the queues outside.
Yeah, it has been from day one. We were quite lucky, and I think we tried to create as much hype locally around it as we could. Lanchester's got some really good Facebook groups, and it's a tight knit community. I love this village.
Very much so.
It still feels, quite old fashioned almost, in that everyone kind of knows everybody, and the businesses. If you walk down the high street of Lanchester, there are just not many high streets in the UK look like that anymore, with thriving independent local businesses.
That's what I mean. To be honest, that's what I love about it, and also love about your addition to it, because it's like, for me, I'm not a big fan of McDonald's. I don't like going to McDonald's. I mean, I accept as a father, I've kind of got to deal with it. But it's that thing, like, sort of often if we get one, I'd prefer to come to, like, say, your place and get a chippy tea. If I'm going to have an indulgence, because, I mean, you actually get some potato in the chips.
Yeah. I must say, I love McDonald's, mate.
Yeah. Oh, dear me.
Breakfast yesterday.
I think I'm going to need to edit that bit out as well.
I think it is important to support local wherever you can, because it's hard, local businesses.
I think, but I agree with what you say about this village, which it's unusual. You've not got the high street names, but you do have those old fashioned.
That's nice. I think it's nice.
Yeah.
The coffee shops aren't Costco's.
Coffee shops, exactly.
I see Andy's got the fruit and veg shop, and he supplies all of our potatoes.
That's another thing I was going to bring up, actually. I'm glad you mentioned about Andy, because the local fruit and veg shop in the village, you do, like, from within your business, you like using local supplies as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it felt so traditional when we were opening up. We're like, right, we're opening a chip shop up there. There's the greengrocer. Let's go and speak to the greengrocer. And so I've never met Andy before in my life. We just walked in one day when we were in the middle of the renovation and said, we're going to need some potatoes. Can you help us?
Yeah.
And he went and he talked us through lots of different varieties, because I said we're both quite new to this particular niche of food, and he talked us through the different varieties, said how it would work, and we've got a great relationship with Andy now.
Anyone that looks at your social media, you have demonstrated the processes that you go through to make your chips.
Yeah.
And it's beef dripping, isn't it?
Beef dripping, I think that's probably what is slightly different for us. There will be other chip shops in the northeast that use beef dripping, but lots of places don't now. It's kind of the traditional way to do it, and lots of places will be using fry max and vegetable oils and things like that.
How much thought was there into what's essentially your recipe for your fish and chips?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, we wanted to be as traditional as possible. We kind of took inspiration from the chippy at Beamish.
Right.
We wanted to be as close to that kind of feel as possible. We wanted to feel as though people were being taken back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
Back to when our granddad was buying fish and chips when he was a kid. That's how we wanted it to feel. I think we're doing that. And beef dripping was how fish and chips was done for decades and decades. And we wanted to keep it that way.
Are you able to buy the beef dripping locally, or?
Yeah, we do. We use it. I mean, we're fortunate in the northeast in that one of the biggest suppliers of fish and chip shops in the UK is actually based in Gateshead.
All right.
So Henry Colbeck's based on the Team Valley, so they'll supply most of the fish and chip shops in the country, I imagine.
Right. That want to do the traditional beef dripping.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're kind of a one-stop shop for
okay.
everything. They're a family business.
Right.
They've just grown massive.
So basically, you've kind of got there's a lot of thought gone into your opening, like you say. You've ruined a family holiday in terms of your planning.
Family holiday for me, I love that bit.
No, that's it.
That's the exciting side of business for me. Is the planning and the future, the dreaming about it, I guess.
Yeah, and then seeing it come
at that point, it didn't quite feel real at that point for me.
No.
I mean, Richard's had his own businesses before. I hadn't. So when we were sat doing all these designs and going through menus, I'm like, is this actually going to happen?
I was going to say, did that make it easier for you, knowing that your brother had in some ways gone through?
Yeah, 100%.
So you perhaps didn't view it as big a risk as what it maybe could have been.
No, I think, and like I said, everything happened so fast that there was no time to really sit and think,
Yeah.
God, this is a bit of a risk.
Would you? Do you think you'd have done it without each other?
That's a good question. I'll be honest, yes, I would have done.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. As I asked that question, I thought, I hope I'm not going to cause any sort of rift.
No.
I much prefer doing it with him.
Yeah.
But I probably would have done. If he turned around and said, "Oh, I want to do that car sales job. I want that security," I'd have said, "That's fine, no dramas at all."
Yeah.
But I would have gone and done it anyway. Yeah.
It's but the team of you together.
It's much more fun doing it together. It's being nice to share the workload, share the stresses, and and celebrate the successes.
As someone that's come in as a customer, I think what is nice is seeing how the two of you kind of get on. There's a chemistry that I don't think you can always capture as a solo business.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with solo businesses. You can create a great energy, you can create a great vibe into what you're doing. But I think when you see two people interact, and even though it's behind a chip shop counter, you might not necessarily think that there's a huge amount in there, but in many ways, and like I say, from my knowledge of performers, that's kind of what you're putting on. Mm-hmm. And there's the sort of the banter, the laughter, which seems to involve the staff as well.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate with staff.
And you seem to manage to get a bit of cooperation from the staff in the social media as well.
Tomo is a very good sport.
I'm assuming Tomo is the guy that had his head pushed into the
thing. Yeah, that's the guy.
So Tomo is kind of our number 2 in the shop. He's manager of the shop when we're not there.
We actually interviewed him before we opened. Yeah, he was the first person we interviewed when we initially advertised for sort of part-time casual staff. Didn't know how busy we were going to be. Offered him a position and basically said, "Well, we'll know how many hours we can give you when we open."
Yeah.
He accepted initially and then contacted us a couple of weeks later and said, "I need the security of a proper job," and he ended up getting the general manager's position at Tycoon in the Metro Centre. So
right.
Good job for him. And then I think after about 3 months of opening, we were getting really, really busy and decided we were going to have to take someone on full-time for a sort of, like Rich says, team leader, number 2 sort of role. So we got back in touch with Tomo and said, "Do you want to pop down and have a chat?" And pretty much offered him the job on the spot. Yeah. And then...
But we were able to offer more concrete options. You don't know what you don't know before you open. We had no idea. We naively thought, to be honest, that for much of the time we'd be able to run it just the 2 of us, which is seldom the case now. I think there's only about 1.5 hours a day where there's just us in the shop, and it's the very quiet bit at the middle of the afternoon. We need staff in there, but now we were able to offer that guarantee.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously your social media's blown up. We've spoken a bit about that. One thing that and every time I do come in and get one, it does stagger me that because you're pricing it, you offer a cone of chips for £1.
Mm-hmm. We do. And
every time I bought one, I always feel guilty. I genuinely feel guilty. Like
keep telling you pay more.
which I usually do, to be fair. But is that there as a loss leader? Is that like sort of deliberate strategy?
Yeah, we don't make money on corner chips, but
that came from social media. It was when we initially took over the Facebook page, and a load of people commented saying, "You're still going to do the £1 cones of chips for the kids finishing school," which.
Look, if we're completely honest, it brings in people who buy other things because they're buying cones for their bands and what have you. And I think it's a nice thing to do for the children of the village, to be honest.
You did get a comment I noticed on one of the Facebook pages, post that you'd put up. I think someone getting quite cross about the cones, been a little bit presumptuous. It says, "Oh, it's ridiculous, a rip-off of the corner chips." And then I don't know which one of you it was, or whether it was your wife. So we charge £1, and like there's a really quick backtrack. All right, well done, lads.
Yeah.
Emma responded to that.
I mean, social media reveals all kinds of interesting people.
I was going to say,
but that was quite an easy retort, really. Yeah,
and I think, I mean, clearly, and as I say, the village. I think you're a much loved addition to the village already, but you're not without your critics, are you?
No,
absolutely not.
Ruffle a few feathers.
Any vegans watching this?
we can go through it. I mean, like, look, when we first opened, we tried to please everybody. And we were well aware that the previous shop, under the previous owners, had a bit of a cult vegan following because...
right. That
I don't think it was actually a cult.
Well, they had a bit of a cult following. Because Henry, the previous owner, his daughters were vegans, so he'd spent a lot of time in his own kitchen preparing lots of different vegan alternatives, and he put them all on the menu. So when you looked at the previous menu, it was kind of one page of fish and chips, traditional stuff, and then 3 or 4 pages of vegan alternatives. So, look, I mean, all well and good. I'm all for vegan restaurants, but that's not going to be our passion.
No.
So we were always going to have to change that, because I think you've got to be passionate about what you sell.
I'll be honest, I didn't realise that was the background there and how that's kind of come about. But I suppose when you've come in, and I suppose it also makes sense for the rebranding that you've done.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons. But I mean, the very first comment I think we ever got on social media, when we posted what the name was going to be and the logo and stuff, the first comment was, "Can't believe you've changed the name from Lanchester Fish Bar." I was like, this is off to a good start.
Yeah, but again, very easy retort to that. We talked about the story behind it and why, and put him back in his box. So
I think as well with the name, it was... I mean, we haven't got any imminent plans to scale the business, but I think when you're opening a business, you've got to think of where does this go? Yeah. And you have Lanchester Fish Bar. You can't go and open that somewhere else, whereas the brand that we have currently, you could scale it, it can go anywhere.
You kind of sort of got in a bit early there, but I was going to ask if that's sort of on the cards, possibly future franchising opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
I mean, it just strikes me because I think it's apparent to anyone that knows anything about the business. You can see how much thought and care has gone into, and I use this term deliberately, to crafting the business, crafting your approach to social media, and which has been successful, and and we can judge that obviously by the speed that you've grown, how quickly you need to appoint your manager, and it's the sort of thing that actually, is the sort of thing that could be copied pretty much anywhere, because I don't know if it feels different to your run-of-the-mill chip shop.
Yeah.
We're in no mad rush to scale, but if the right opportunities come along, we will, of course, explore them. And it was a deliberate endeavour from the start to create a brand that could be scaled if the opportunity arose.
Is that your finance background?
I mean, possibly. I've helped businesses that I was advising scale. Emma's obviously done marketing for businesses looking to scale.
Obviously, Aidan, your sales experience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that's helped? You've taken very much from your estate agency.
I think it helps. I think one difference when you come into our shop, which you've kind of touched on, is the fact that we know most of our regulars' names, we know a little bit about them, and we have a bit of crack with them, and that comes from us both having backgrounds in sales.
You've actually got staggering memories, and I remember the first time my wife, because we met, we're in Crinian's local pub. And we had a lovely chat, and you met myself and my wife, and then my wife came in your shop, and you'd remembered, which shocked her, genuinely really surprised her, you'd remembered a name. You'd remember where she was going on holiday to Singapore, and which I hasten to add wasn't my holiday. That was where she went with a school trip. That's not me splashing the cash, but that comes from your sales background. Or have you just both got really good memories?
Well, it comes from his police background.
No, in a car dealership, especially, I think working in a Honda dealership. A lot of your customers tend to be a little bit older.
Yes.
And they appreciate them little touches of when they come in, of like, oh, hi Mr. McDermott, how are you doing? How's your car going? And knowing that little bit about them. And I think coming in the shop as well, I would say most of our customers are a little bit older. And the age of people in the village, and like older people come in, they appreciate that bit of conversation and us knowing a little bit about them. And we've got people who come in every week.
Some of them 2-3 times a week.
So I think that comes from a sales thing.
And
it's genuine of just like being a nice person and having a big crack with people. It's not.
I think it's just being genuine, really. Like, if you're in a sales position historically, it's probably because you like working with people. I love working with people. It was the thing I really loved about being in financial services, and pretty much the only thing I liked about being in financial services was helping people. And so, if you're a people person, probably going to remember people's names and genuinely take interest in people. I think that's something that's actually really difficult to fake.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I also think that's such an important part of making a success of any business. It's just remembering it, or I think making a success of any job as well, to be fair. Because I mean, the police, you need your relationships in that kind of job.
Yeah.
You know, the RAF, whatever it is you're doing, you're going to need those relationships, and it's just such a, if you can, and I'm actually really bad at it, but if you can remember people's names, I think it's probably just an age thing, to be fair, but if you can remember people's names, then it just lets them know that you've taken that little bit of extra care.
Yeah.
It's not just names as well, it's just being, I think what people are experiencing when they come in that chip shop is unusual now. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But customer service is a dying art, it seems. You know, I think people just expect now you go into a takeaway and you're going to get shoddy service.
Not even that. I mean, you mentioned McDonald's before. You walk into McDonald's now and you order on a screen.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
hate
actually
that.
having some like interaction with another human being, like.
And you know, are you using the app? No.
Why
I
is
don't
that
want
the
to
first
use
question you ask? I'm at the drive-thru. I'm already using some technology.
Yeah.
I don't need to use the app as well. It winds me up. I think I always say I was born in the wrong decade. I should have probably been born in the 1940s. I've got much more affliction towards that generation.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to create a little bit of the past.
It is quite fascinating. You know, we've got the advent of AI, the technology. We're just talking about using apps to order food and things like that. And what has surprised me has been people are always quick, particularly for a local business, a small business, to talk about customer service. I'm not convinced every small business actually delivers on that. And I remember an experience when I was buying a computer, because I thought I'd have a go at making one myself, and experienced the worst service from this little computer shop. And it's like, you know, I could have gone to Curry's, Dixon's, whatever, or could have got it a lot cheaper online or whatever, but I'd gone to this guy and he was miserable as anything. and just with you saying, I think you think it's a dying art. I think you're absolutely right, but not everyone else seems to fully appreciate. It's like, you know, no one owes you their custom.
No.
And like I say, from going in your shop, you appear from the cues that you get that you genuinely value everyone that walks through your door, and they're treated, you know, from your staff as well, who are all very good.
Yeah.
But they're keeping the lights on, right? If no one comes to see you, you haven't got a business. So I love Lanchester because of the competition, but we have a lot of local competition.
Yeah.
There's pretty much every cuisine you could possibly wish for within about 100 yards of our shop.
And they're all very good.
And they're all great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. And we use all of them.
Yeah.
So,
Me too. It's
you know,
fortunately there's a gym as well, but
Yeah.
I don't use that so much. But yeah, we want to offer that service and hopefully have people remember us and want to come back as regularly as possible.
I've mentioned your staff are all very good. I mean, have you got much experience in sort of training with the customer service? Is that?
I mean, we don't offer any specific training other than just kind of trying to lead by example, I guess.
Right.
You know, just be light, be fun, be friendly.
Yeah.
Whenever the new guys have started, I've just said, slap a smile on your face and be nice to people. That's all you've got to do.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Which I think is clearly working.
No, I mean, when we opened, there was no sort of formal training plan because we were
learning
learning on our feet as well.
Yeah.
We only made fish and chips, I think, a week before we opened for the first time. We've done all this.
We can admit that now because I'm really happy with
because
it.
it's good now. we
have
cared the shop out, and I was like, Rich, we still can't make fish and chips, and he was like, yeah, but if you went and worked in a chippy for a week, you'd know how to make fish and chips.
Yeah.
So let's just spend a week doing it. So we did.
That was the plan. I mean, it's turned out to work, but looking back, it was potentially a bit fraught because, you know, I'd said, well, we'll get the fries ready, we'll get the shop kitted out, and then we'll just not open for a week, and we'll work in it as though it's open. And like I said, that logic of if I went and worked at any other chip shop for a week, by the end of it, I'd know how to make fish and chips.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, we've learned that, you know, in terms of cooking ability, the thing that makes cooking complicated is the amount of variables you introduce into it, right? The amount of ingredients, cooking time, different methods.
Yeah.
Fish and chips is really quite simple. There's one method, there's 2 ingredients or 3. You know, it's really quite straightforward to make.
Yeah.
If you just follow the processes that we were taught by the various reps that we were introduced to.
I think one thing I'd noticed, I remember on watching some Gordon Ramsay show, and he was talking, I think he was talking to someone about this broccoli soup that they were making, and it got something like 7 ingredients. He says, right, my broccoli soup has 2 ingredients, broccoli, water, and a bit of salt. And any show like that, it has been just keep it simple, don't overstretch yourself, and keep the menu simple so you know what you're doing, get good at that, and get reputation. I suppose with a fish and chip shop by its nature, that's kind of what you're doing. Yeah. Although a special mention does have to go to, which I know you're very proud of, your the deep fried Mars bars.
Yeah, they've been great. People like them. But I think it comes from buying fish and chips in particular. The quality of the ingredients that you're buying is what's going to reflect in the quality of the product. So we do buy the most expensive fish you can buy. There are cheaper alternatives that we avoid because you can tell the difference. So that's why we're so proud of the product, because we're buying the best potatoes we can find that are in season, and we're buying the best quality fish that we can find.
I think you're positioning yourself
we're using proper Mars bars as well for the fact Mars.
Not Aldi alternatives.
We intentionally kept the menus small as well. I mean, we don't have a huge menu. I mean, you go into like my local fish and chip shop does fish and chips, pizzas, burgers, kebabs, and we could have done that.
Yeah.
But wouldn't have quite fit with the brand, but
no.
Could have tried. Actually, when we first met with the reps from the various places that are trying to sell you their wares, they couldn't believe that we weren't going to be doing chicken burgers, doner kebabs.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to. That's not what you would have got from a traditional chippy in the 50s, so why would we do it now?
So basically from day one it has been tradition, keeping it simple, and just kind of like to really emphasise that, go out on a limb for that. And I suppose those values are, I think it's been a perfect village for you to introduce those values, because they are, I think, consistent with what you've got going on in the village. Is that something, because I mean, Rich, you've moved to the village. I know, Aidan, you've kind of been sort of looking at that. Did the village sort of influence your plans for the business in any way in that respect?
I wouldn't say it influenced plans for the business. It influenced why I wanted to live here.
Right.
Like I said, I always said if I could live at Beamish, I would, because I just love that old-fashioned, traditional way of life community. And Lanchester has that. I think it's probably as close in County Durham or even England as you can get to living in Beamish. And naturally I'd want to run a business with those values at its core as well.
I do want to touch on your social media again, and I would like to ask you both the most amusing comment that you've had on your social media, one that really stuck out.
I mean, there's one in particular on TikTok, Blondie, who...
That's where I was going.
Now every time we put any video on there...
The Head Duncan one.
Oh, right, yeah.
Dunked on in the water. She commented, wish you grabbed me by the neck and bend me over.
Yeah, her comments are often so... they get filtered out because they're often so, rude. So hers are always funny.
I'm trying to think of some of the vegan ones, because we used to get they've gone away now.
Well, we had one from a guy, didn't we? I did a whole video responding to it because it was so... Well, it was just so over the top. And sometimes you're looking at these things, mate, and honestly, you're like, I run a little chippy in a little village. Why do people care this much? Like, who've never been, who clearly have no intention of coming, but they're willing to spend probably 10 minutes of their day watching something that we put out there, getting angry about it, and then writing a full paragraph response to it. I'm like, just scroll on by, mate. If we're upsetting you that much, just scroll on.
It does stack at me.
You can't please everybody, can you?
No. And there's always going to be online trolls.
Lots of people, I mean, who don't seem to understand why we're doing the social media stuff.
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting one, actually. Someone said, I think they're more interested in becoming Facebook famous than actually having a chip shop. It's like, you've got to realise
hand in hand.
Yeah, the two are one and the same. Ask Spudman if he sells a lot of potatoes. Yes. Does he sell a lot of potatoes because he has 91 million followers on TikTok? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just modern marketing. And these same people wouldn't be upset with us if we hadn't had in the Northern Echo, right? It's just the way you market now.
Which I suppose is an interesting point, because I mean, everything else is traditional about your business apart from the marketing, but then I'm just thinking about how that would work for you, and I just can't really see it.
I think if we hadn't done all the social media marketing, the business probably wouldn't be where it is now.
We wouldn't have created as many jobs as we have.
No.
We could
we
could make a living out of it, but I mean, we employ 5, 6 people now.
Wow. Which is pretty meteoric, isn't it, really, for the time that you've been going?
Yeah.
In a small village, and as you say, you know,
it's all people who, pretty much all people who live in the village as well, which I think's great.
Yeah.
It is brilliant for the local economy, brilliant for that. So I mean, we've looked at the not the downsides of social media, but some of the more amusing. Since you both started, what's been the best thing about the business for you and about your lives?
Wow, that's a good question.
I think getting to work together, which is something we always talked about, and then the flexibility that comes with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're there a lot. We work hard, but
I think
if one of us wants time off, the other's there to...
Yeah.
Flexibility is great. I think for me, you know, for a long time when I was working in financial services, I was genuinely miserable. And getting out of bed and going to work was a chore, whereas I've not once felt, you know, I don't wake up on a Tuesday because it's our first day back and think, oh God, I've got like 5 more days to go. It's fun going to work. It's hard graft, it is, and there's challenges that go with it, but I can genuinely say I've never been happier at work than what I am now.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day in the shop. I said, because it was a Tuesday, and I said I drove to work this morning, genuinely quite happy to go to work.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, in the police, I used to work a 4-on 4-off shift pattern, and you'd be going in for your first day.
Yeah,
it's for a 12-hour shift, and you'd be driving, thinking, I really don't want to go in here. I can't be bothered.
It's dangerous wishing your life away like that, you know. I mean, I remember the last deployment I did when I was in the forces. I spent 5 months out in somewhere in the desert, and it was horrible, and I was scratching off the days on the calendar because I couldn't wait to get back to my missus.
So many people do that though, don't they?
People do that their entire lives, mate. You
Yeah.
know, our dad was a copper for 35 years, and he did that for 35 years, just scratching off days to get to that end point of retirement. I just think that's a crazy way to live your life, personally.
It's, as you say, that's a choice. I mean, it's lovely listening to that, because from a casual observer's point of view, a lot of what has come up could be viewed as a happy accident. It's so not that, though. When you listen to how you have kind of planned, the strategy that you put in place, the fact that you have taken on the help and support where you've needed it with the social media, it's come together nicely. But it seems to me that is very much by design. I'm not sure I think you guys might be sort of a little bit too modest to just state that to its extent. From my perspective, I think you're a fantastic addition to the village. I'm so pleased that you've come on the podcast, and I can only wish you every success for the future. So, Aidan, thank you.
Well, edit that bit out.
Rich, thanks ever so much.